Commander Hannah Kim's boots echoed against the polished crystal floor of the Galactic Council chamber. The massive dome stretched above her like a frozen roar. Its walls shifting through colors she had no names for. Thousands of alien delegates filled the curved seating areas, their various forms creating a nightmare symphony of clicks, hisses, and electronic warbles. Her military uniform felt tight as she approached the central platform. The data pad in her sweaty palm contained humanity's formal request for a plasma cannon technology. 3 years of preparation had led to this moment. Earth's future hung in the balance. The Altarian delegate towered 12 feet above the others, its crystalline body refracting light into rainbow patterns. When it spoke, its voice sounded like wind chimes in a hurricane. The human presents her case. Hannah cleared her throat and activated the holographic display. Images of Earth's struggling defense fleet materialized in the air above her. Honored council members, humanity requests access to Class 7 plasma weaponry. Our recent encounters with the Void Raiders have shown that our kinetic weapons are insufficient for modern galactic threats. A ripple of amusement passed through the chamber. The tentacle vegan ambassador's purple skin darkened with what she recognized as their version of laughter. Its translator collar burst to life. Primitive projectile weapons, how quaint. Hannah's jaw tightened, but she continued. We offer our biomedical research in exchange. Human healing techniques have proven effective on 17 different species. We also propose sharing our agricultural innovations that have increased crop yields by 40% across multiple worlds. The insectoid delegate from Proxima clicked its mandibles rapidly. Humans wish to trade bandages for starkillers. Amusing. From the human section of the gallery, Admiral Jun Kim stood slowly. Hannah felt a flutter of hope. Her father commanded respect even among these beings. Surely he would support her proposal. Esteemed council, Admiral Kim's voice carried clearly through the chamber's acoustic systems. I must speak on this matter. The chamber fell silent. Even the ever-present hum of translation devices seemed to quiet. Hannah smiled slightly, straightening her shoulders. My daughter is a fool. The words hit Hannah like a physical blow. Her smile vanished as murmurs erupted throughout the chamber. Admiral Kim continued, his voice growing harsher. Humanity is not ready for such power. We are barely capable of maintaining our current technology without constant alien oversight. To give us weapons of mass destruction would be like handing explosives to children. The Altarian delegate's crystalline form pulsed with what might have been approval. The human admiral shows wisdom. Commander Kim's proposal demonstrates the very recklessness that makes her species unsuitable for advanced weaponry, Admiral Kim said, not meeting his daughter's stunned gaze. Her military record, while adequate, shows repeated instances of impulsive decision-making. The defense of Titan Station, the assault on the Raider stronghold in the asteroid belt, victories achieved through luck rather than strategy. Hannah's face burned with humiliation. Every mission he mentioned had been successful, but now her father was twisting them into examples of human incompetence. The alien delegates were eating it up, their various forms of laughter creating a cacophony of mockery. The massive cetacean representative from the water worlds released a sound like a falcon. Through its translator, it said, even their own kind recognize human inadequacy. I hereby recommend that Commander Kim be stripped of her diplomatic status, Admiral Kim announced, and that humanity's request be denied indefinitely. The chamber erupted in approval, clicks, chirps, and electronic sounds blended into a celebration of human failure. Hannah stood frozen on the platform, her data pad slipping from numb fingers. The holographic display of Earth's vulnerable fleet still glowed above her, now seeming pathetic rather than hopeful. The Altarian delegate's voice cut through the noise. Motion approved. Human Commander Kim, you are hereby banned from council proceedings. Your diplomatic credentials are revoked. Security drones materialized around Hannah. their blue energy fields humming with barely contained power. She looked desperately toward her father, but Admiral Kim had already turned away, speaking quietly with other human officials who nodded in apparent agreement. As the drones escorted her from the platform, Hannah caught fragments of alien conversation through their translators, typical human arrogance. Did you see her face? Even their own admiral knows their primitives. The walk to the chamber's exit felt like walking through quicksand. Every step was agony, every alien gaze another nail in her professional coffin. The massive doors sealed behind her with a finality that echoed through her soul. In the corridor outside, human security officers waited with transfer orders. Captain Park, her former colleague, wouldn't meet her eyes as he handed her the documentation. Mining Station 7 in the Outer Rim, he said quietly. Transport leaves in 2 hours. Hannah stared at the orders through blurry vision. From commander to exile in a single afternoon. Destroyed not by alien enemies, but by the man who had taught her to tie her boots and shoot straight. As she walked toward the transport bay, she wondered if she would ever understand why her father had chosen to humiliate her before the entire galaxy. The transport ship that carried Hannah to Mining Station 7 was a rust bucket held together by prayer and duct tape. She pressed her face against the scratched porthole, watching the stars streak past in lonely silence. 3 days of hyperspace travel gave her plenty of time to replay her humiliation over and over. Mining Station 7 hung in the void like a broken tooth, its metal hull scarred by decades of asteroid impacts. The docking bay smelled of engine oil and desperation. Workers in patched coveralls moved cargo with the slow, defeated movements of people who had given up on better days. Hannah's new quarters were a closet-sized room with a cot, a sink, and a view of the asteroid field. The station manager, his sweaty man named Boss Chen, handed her work assignments without looking up from his tablet. All processing. Level 12, he grunted. 12-hour shifts, 7 days a week. Don't cause trouble, the work was brutal, Hannah spent. Her days operating massive crushing machines that turned raw asteroids into refined metals. The noise was deafening, the heat unbearable. Her hands blistered, then calloused. Her military training meant nothing here. The other workers kept their distance. Word traveled fast in small places. And everyone knew she was the disgraced officer who had embarrassed humanity. During meal breaks, conversation stopped when she entered the cafeteria, 3 weeks into her exile. Hannah was repairing a broken conveyor belt when she heard footsteps behind her. She turned to see an elderly Korean man watching her work. His face was deeply lined, his hair silver white, but his dark eyes were sharp and alert. "You're doing that wrong," he said mildly, taking the plasma torch from her hands. "The joint needs to be angled differently, or it'll fail again in a week," he demonstrated with practiced ease. The torch dancing in his weathered fingers like a painter's brush. The repair was perfect, seamless. "Thanks," Hannah muttered, not really caring who he was. "I'm Tai," he said, extending a hand. "Kim Tai, your grandfather." Hannah stared at him. She had vague memories of family gatherings when she was very young. An old man who smelled of machine oil and told stories about the old days. But that was before her parents' divorce, before her father's military career consumed everything. "I thought you were dead," she said bluntly. Tai chuckled, a sound like gravel in a cement mixer. "Not dead, just forgotten. It's safer that way." Over the following days, Tai appeared whenever Hannah was struggling with a repair. He never offered help directly, just suggestions that somehow made the impossible tasks manageable. The other workers nodded respectfully when he passed, but none of them seemed to really know who he was. Just old Tai. One of them told her, "Been here forever. Keeps the machines running when nothing else will." Hannah started taking her evening meals in the observation deck, staring out at the asteroid field and wondering if this was her life now. That's where Ty found her one night, sitting alone with a tray of synthetic protein and recycled water. "Mind if I joined you?" he asked, settling onto the bench beside her without waiting for an answer. They ate in silence for a while, watching mining drones carve chunks from a passing asteroid. The work never stopped. Even at night, the station's lights reflected off the tumbling rocks like scattered diamonds. "Your father had no choice," Ty said quietly, his voice barely audible over the hum of life support systems. Hannah's folk stopped halfway to her mouth. What happened at the council?" "It was necessary." She laughed bitterly, the sound echoing off the observation deck's metal walls. "Necessary to humiliate me, to destroy my career, to make humanity look weak in front of the entire galaxy." Ty turned to study her face. In the dim light, his eyes seemed to glow with an inner fire. "Tell me, child, what do you know about our family history?" "Nothing important. Dad never talked about it. Said the past was dead weight." "Your father learned that from me," Ty said with a sad smile. "I taught him to hide, to blend in, to never stand out. It kept us alive." A mining drone exploded in the distance, its cargo of rare metals scattering like glitter. Emergency klaxons wailed as salvage ships raced to collect the debris. Just another day in the Outer Rim. "My grandfather was a war hero," Hannah said, reciting what little she knew. "Fought in the border wars against the Centauri Federation." "That's all I know." Ty's weathered hands gripped her suddenly, his fingers surprisingly strong. "Child, there are things about our family, about humanity itself, that must stay hidden. Your father knows this, the council, the humiliation, the exile. It's all part of something bigger." "What are you talking about?" A cargo ship was approaching the station, its running lights blinking red against the stars. But something was wrong. The ship was moving too fast, its trajectory erratic. Ty noticed it too, his body tensing like a coiled spring. "We need to go," he said, standing abruptly. "Now." "Why? What's wrong?" The cargo ship's hull suddenly split open, revealing not shipping containers but weapon systems. Plasma cannons emerged from hidden compartments, their targeting systems painting the station with lethal red dots. "Because," Ty said, pulling her toward the emergency bulkhead, "they've found us." The plasma cannons lit up the mining station like a deadly fireworks show. Emergency alarms screamed as sections of the outer hull vaporized under the alien assault. Ty pulled Hannah through twisting corridors filled with panicking workers, his aged legs moving faster than should have been possible. "This way," he shouted over the chaos, leading her to a maintenance shaft she had never noticed before. "They're not here for the station. They're here for us." They crawled through the narrow tunnel as explosions rocked the structure around them, behind them. Hannah could hear the distinctive whine of alien boarding pods cutting through the hole. The attackers weren't trying to destroy the station completely. They were hunting for something specific. Ty's quarters were hidden deep in the station's core, accessible only through a maze of forgotten maintenance tunnels. The room was larger than it should have been, carved from the asteroid itself. But what caught Hannah's attention weren't the living arrangements. It was the technology. Holographic projectors lined the walls, their surfaces dark but humming with power. Ancient computer terminals displayed text in languages she didn't recognize, and in the center of it all sat a device that made her breath catch. A quantum storage matrix that could hold the entire history of a civilization. "Welcome to the real family archive," Ty said, his fingers dancing across the control panels with practiced ease. "Everything your father never told you, everything humanity has forgotten." The first hologram materialized above them, a three-dimensional, star map showing the galaxy as it existed thousands of years ago. But this wasn't the galaxy Hannah knew. Instead of the current patchwork of alien territories, vast sections were marked in brilliant blue. The Terran Empire, Tai said quietly, at its height. We controlled 60% of the known galaxy, human. Colonies on 10,000 worlds, fleets that could crack planets and reshape solar systems. The image shifted, showing massive spacecraft that dwarfed anything in the current galactic fleet. These weren't the sleek, artistic vessels favored by modern aliens. They were brutal, functional, and utterly terrifying. Weapons platforms the size of moons. Troop carriers that could hold entire armies. I don't understand, Hannah whispered. If humans were so powerful, what happened? Where did it all go? Ty's face grew grim as he manipulated the controls. The hologram changed again, showing a coalition of alien races. She recognized some of them, the crystalline Altarians, the tentacled vegans, dozens of others, but they looked different, younger somehow, less advanced. Fear, Tai said simply. They were terrified of us, not just our technology, but something deeper, something in our nature that made us natural warriors, natural leaders. So, they did the only thing they could think of. The next image made Hannah's blood run cold. It showed Earth, but not the Earth she knew. This Earth was a fortress world, bristling with orbital defense platforms and surrounded by fleets. And then she watched as those defenses crumbled under a massive alien assault. They united against us, Tai continued, his voice heavy with old pain. Every major race in the galaxy, working together for the first and only time in galactic history. The war lasted 300 years. The hologram showed the final battle. Human ships fighting desperately against impossible odds, one by one. The blue sections of the galaxy map turned red as human worlds fell. The retreat to Earth, the last stand, the final defeat. But some survived, Tai said, touching another control. The ones who saw it coming, who prepared for the worst. They took the survivors, the children, the genetic samples, and hid them on a small blue world at the edge of nowhere. The image now showed primitive humans, living in caves, hunting with spears. No trace of their former greatness remained. They wiped our memories, Tai said, his voice barely a whisper. Used genetic manipulation to suppress our natural abilities. Made us forget who we were, what we were capable of. And then they watched us, guided our development, made sure we never grew too powerful again. Hannah stared at the genetic sequences floating in the air before her. Even with her limited medical training, she could see the artificial modifications, the suppression codes woven into human DNA like invisible chains, the exchange programs, she said. Pieces falling into place, the cultural missions, the scientific partnerships, harvesting operations, Tai confirmed. They take our best and brightest, study them, learn from them, then they send them back with subtle modifications, keeping us dependent, keeping us weak. A new hologram appeared, showing modern Earth, but overlaid on the image were hidden installations, monitoring stations, genetic laboratories. The planet was a prison disguised as a home. Your father discovered some of this 20 years ago, Tai said. That's when I made contact with him. That's when we started planning. The station shuddered as another explosion locked its hole through the walls. Hannah could hear the distinctive sound of alien weapons fire. The boarding parties were getting closer. Planning what? She asked. Tai smiled, and for a moment she saw something dangerous in his eyes, something that reminded her of ancient warriors and forgotten empires, the awakening. The return of what was stolen from us. He pressed his palm against a biometric scanner, and suddenly the room came alive. Hidden weapon systems emerged from the walls. Armor plating slid into place, and most shocking of all, Hannah felt something stirring in her blood. something that had been sleeping for generations. The genetic locks are keyed to stress, to danger, Ty explained as the feeling grew stronger. Your father's humiliation, your exile. Even this attack, it's all been designed to trigger what's been hidden in your DNA. Outside, alien voices echoed through the corridors, speaking in languages that sounded increasingly familiar to Hannah's ears. The suppression was breaking down, and with it, the artificial barriers that had kept humanity small. Soon, Ty said, checking the charge on a weapon that looked far too advanced for a simple mining station, you'll understand exactly what they've been so afraid of. The metal door to Ty's hidden chamber exploded inward with a shower of sparks and molten steel. Through the smoke came creatures Hannah had never seen before, tall and skeletal with forearms and faces like living nightmares. Their weapons hummed with deadly energy as they swept into the room. Terran genetic markers confirmed. One of them hissed through a translator device. Terminate both subjects. The first plasma bolt screamed toward Hannah's head. Time seemed to slow as she watched the deadly energy approach. Something deep in her mind whispered that she should move, that she could move, that her body was capable of things she had never imagined. She twisted sideways, the plasma bolt missing her by inches. But that wasn't the strange part. The strange part was how easy it felt. Like she had been moving in thick honey her entire life and someone had finally let her breathe. The second assassin fired. Then the third. Hannah found herself dancing between the energy beams, her body moving with fluid precision. Her muscles felt stronger, her reactions faster, even her vision seemed sharper, picking out details in the smoke-filled room that should have been impossible to see. Impossible. One of the aliens snarled. The genetic locks should prevent this. Ty ducked behind his computer console as more plasma fire filled the air. Stress triggers. He called out to Hannah. The locks break under extreme pressure. That's why they've kept us comfortable for so long. An assassin leaped toward Hannah with impossible speed, forearms extending blade-like weapons. 6 months ago, she would have been dead before she could blink. Now, she caught 2 of the blades in her bare hands, feeling them slice through her palms without pain. Her grip tightened, and the alien's weapon shattered like glass. The creature's face showed confusion, then fear. Hannah grabbed it by the throat and threw it across the room with strength that surprised even her. The assassin hit the wall with a sickening crunch and didn't get up. "What's happening to me?" she gasped, staring at her bleeding hands. The cuts were already healing, the skin knitting itself together in real time. "Your birthright," Ty said, his fingers flying over the controls. The Terran Empire didn't conquer the galaxy through superior technology alone. Our ancestors were enhanced, evolved, made into something beyond baseline human. 2 more assassins burst through the doorway, these ones carrying heavier weapons. The room filled with the whine of charging energy cells and the acrid smell of ozone. Ty's equipment began sparking as stray bolts overloaded the systems. Hannah didn't think. She just moved. Her body flowed between the energy beams like water, every step perfectly calculated. She reached the first assassin before it could react, her fist connecting with its chest plate. The armor cracked, then shattered completely. The creature flew backward into the corridor, taking out 2 more assassins who had been waiting to enter. Their weapons scattered across the floor, useless metal and plastic. The last assassin in the room backed away, its forearms trembling. "The Terran protocols," it whispered. "They're still active. How is this possible?" "Because you never really beat us," Hannah said, her voice carrying a confidence she had never felt before. "You just taught us to hide." She moved toward the creature, each step deliberate and predatory. The assassin raised its weapon, but Hannah was already inside its guard. Her hands found its throat, and with a quick twist, The threat was ended. The chamber fell silent except for the distant sounds of battle. Throughout the station, other workers were fighting back now, and from the sounds of it, they were winning. Whatever was happening to Hannah was happening to them too. Tai, she called out, looking for her grandfather. She found him behind the computer console, his spreading, pool of red beneath his body. A plasma bolt had caught him in the chest, the wound too severe for even enhanced healing to fix. "I'm sorry," she whispered, kneeling beside him. "I was too slow." Tai's weathered hand found hers, his grip surprisingly strong. "No, child. You were perfect. Everything went exactly as planned. You knew this would happen." His eyes sparkled with the same dangerous light she had seen before. "Your father and I have been preparing for this moment for 20 years. The humiliation at the council, your exile to this station, even. These assassins, it was all designed to trigger your awakening." Hannah stared at him. "You used me as bait. We used you as a catalyst." Tai corrected. "The genetic clocks respond to stress, to genuine danger. We couldn't fake it. You had to believe. You were truly alone, truly abandoned." His free hand moved toward a control panel built into the wall. "But you were never alone. There are others like you, scattered across the galaxy. Humans with the same hidden potential, waiting for the signal." "What signal?" Tai's finger found a large red button marked with symbols she was beginning to understand. Ancient Terran military codes, dormant for thousands of years. "The awakening call," he said, pressing the button with his dying strength. "Every human with Terran genetics will feel it. The locks will break. The suppression will end." A low hum filled the chamber as hidden transmitters throughout the station activated. The signal spread outward at light speed, racing toward every corner of the galaxy where humans lived and worked. "Your father," Tai whispered, his voice growing weak. "He's been gathering intelligence for decades, playing the weak human admiral while secretly identifying every enhanced bloodline, every potential soldier, through the station's communication systems." Hannah could hear reports flooding in from across human space. Workers on mining platforms, suddenly displaying impossible strength. Scientists in alien laboratories breaking free from decades of subtle control. Human soldiers in mixed units turning on their alien commanders. "The humiliation," she said, understanding finally dawning. "It was to protect me." Tai smiled, his eyes beginning to close. A weak human daughter could be ignored. A strong one would have been killed in her cradle. "But now you're ready." His hand squeezed hers one last time. "The Terran Empire is reborn. Child, make them remember why they feared us." The transmitter's hum grew louder, and across the galaxy, humanity's true children began to wake up. The Galactic Council chamber looked exactly the same as it had 6 months ago, but everything else had changed. Hannah Kim walked through the massive crystal doors, her footsteps echoing with newfound confidence. Gone was the trembling officer who had begged for plasma weapons. In her place stood something far more dangerous. The alien delegates shifted nervously in their seats as she approached the central platform. Word had spread quickly through the galaxy about the mining station incident, about humans displaying impossible abilities, about the awakening that was spreading like wildfire through human space. "The human returns," the Altarian delegate said, its crystalline form pulsing with uncertain colors. "This is most irregular." Her diplomatic credentials were revoked. Hannah smiled, and several aliens actually flinched at the expression. "I'm not here as a diplomat," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. "I'm here as a representative of the Terran Empire." Gasps and electronic warbles filled the air. That name hadn't been spoken in this chamber for thousands of years. The older delegates, the ones whose species remembered the ancient wars, began. Backing toward the exits. Impossible, the vegan ambassador hissed through its translator. The Terran Empire was destroyed. We made sure of it. You destroyed our fleets. Hannah agreed, walking slowly around the platform. You conquered our worlds. You even wiped our memories. But you made one crucial mistake. The chamber's security systems activated, energy barriers rising round the platform. Weapons turrets emerged from hidden compartments, their targeting systems painting Hannah with deadly red dots. She ignored them completely. You let us live. From the human section of the gallery, Admiral Jun Kim stood up. But this wasn't the defeated man who had humiliated his daughter months ago. His posture was straight, his eyes sharp. And when he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone who had never really been weak. Council members, he said, his tone formal but edged with steel. I believe introductions are in order. I am Admiral Jun Kim of the Terran Fleet Intelligence Division. For the past 23 years, I have been conducting the largest espionage operation in galactic history. The chamber erupted in chaos. Alien delegates began shouting accusations and demands for explanations. Security forces moved to surround the human section. But Admiral Kim simply raised his hand. I wouldn't, he said calmly. Check your long range sensors. The main display screen flickered to life, showing space round the council station. At first, there was nothing but stars. Then, one by one, ships began decloaking. Massive vessels that dwarfed anything in the current galactic fleet. Their hulls bearing the ancient symbol of the Terran Empire. Impossible, breathed the insectoid. Delegate from Proxima, our sensors would have detected them. Your sensors see what we want them to see, Admiral Kim replied. We've had ships hidden round every major alien world for the past 15 years. Cloaked facilities on asteroids, stealth stations in nebulae, entire fleets disguised as space debris. More screens activated round the chamber, showing similar fleets appearing throughout the galaxy. Earth's primitive defense force was revealing itself to be something far more sophisticated and terrifying. Hannah stepped forward, her enhanced sensors picking up the fear pheromones being released by dozens of different species. You thought you were so clever, she said, addressing the entire council, taking our best minds through your exchange programs, using our children in your genetic research projects, keeping us dependent on your technology. She gestured to the screens showing human uprisings across the galaxy. On every world where humans worked or studied, the same scene was playing out, enhanced humans breaking free from their handlers, displaying abilities that should have been impossible. But every human you took, we learned from. Hannah continued. Every facility you brought us to, we mapped every weakness in your defenses. We catalogued and exploited. The cetacean representative's massive form trembled as it spoke. The genetic logs. They were supposed to be permanent. Nothing is permanent, Admiral Kim said, his voice carrying across the chamber, especially not chains forged from fear and guilt. You kept us comfortable, kept us distracted. But you forgot something important about human nature. He paused, letting the tension build. We adapt. On the screens, the scope of the revolution became clear. Human scientists were seizing control of research stations. Human soldiers were overwhelming their alien commanders. Human civilians were rising up on colony worlds throughout the galaxy. But it wasn't just humans. Other species, ones that had been similarly suppressed and controlled, were joining the rebellion. The careful balance of power that had kept the major alien races dominant for millennia was crumbling in real time. This is madness, the Altarian delegate said, its form shifting to deep red in agitation. You'll destroy the galactic order. Billions will die. Hannah's expression hardened. Billions already died when you crushed the Terran Empire. You just made sure we forgot about them." She turned to face her father, seeing him clearly for the first time. The years of apparent weakness, the careful cultivation of a reputation for incompetence, the painful decision to humiliate his own daughter. It had all been part of an elaborate deception spanning decades. The humiliation, she said, her voice softened now. "It was to keep me safe." Admiral Kim nodded, his eyes showing. The pain of those choices, a weak human officer, could be ignored. But if they had suspected what you really were, what any of us really were, they would have exterminated every human in the galaxy round them. The alien delegates were frantically trying to coordinate a response, but their communications were being jammed. Their fleets were already surrounded, and most importantly, their carefully constructed system of control was falling apart. "You have a choice," Hannah announced, her voice carrying the authority of someone who no longer needed to ask for permission. "You can work with us to build a new galactic order based on equality and mutual respect, or you can cling to your old ways and face the consequences." The screens showed more Terran ships decloaking, their numbers seeming endless. Earth's primitive civilization was revealing itself to be the most advanced military force the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Kim smiled at his daughter, pride evident in his eyes. "The age of human submission is over," he said. "The Terran Empire has returned." Hannah looked round the chamber one final time, meeting the eyes of the aliens who had mocked her, who had kept her species enchained for generations. Humanity will never kneel again. The crystal dome above them filled with the light of 1,000 human ships, each one a promise that the galaxy would never again underestimate the children of terror, the ND.